Hey guys, welcome back. Lunatic Astrology and your astrologer Lori Lothian here. Want to talk about the lunar eclipse on January the 10th. This is a big one. We've got activations with Mercury in the heart of the sun and Juno, which is going to impact over the next 6 weeks for sure, and maybe even 6 months, some of your primary relationships, people that you're really connected to, and it's also going to bring you some sudden insights, and it's going to bring breakthrough insights as well. Before I go into that, I want to remind you that I have a website, Lunatic Astrology, and you can find out more about my offerings at the link below in the description box. I've got a sale right now, my 220 year ahead personal reading with me. It's on sale for only $150 instead of $225, my normal rate for the 90 minutes. And also, my sister has a website called Blind Faith Readings. I always promote her here. She's got a sale for 2020. She's a master psychic of the Grand Tableau, the Lenormand Tableau, and I believe she's selling that for only $97, and it's a wonderful reading to gift yourself or a friend for $220. All right, so let's go to the eclipse. First of all, I've got my laptop here in case I forget something, so if I look down, I'm going to be looking at my eclipse chart. But what I want to say about this is that yes, we live in perilous times. We're all going through political upheaval. It feels very difficult. I'm optimistic about the way things will eventually work out, because Jupiter's influence over the next year as he moves through Capricorn and later on near the end of the year into the sign of Aquarius. And so for a lot of reasons I feel like things will ultimately work out. So buckle down and batten down the hatches for sure, but look to the heavens for some grace this year. Now, this eclipse that we're all going to experience on January the 10th, which is a full moon basically, the moon is opposite the sun, is happening on at 20 degrees of Cancer Capricorn. And during this eclipse, and I will be doing all signs. So when I finish the general description, you can scoot ahead. I'll timestamp it to what this eclipse might bring you, particularly in the 6 weeks after. I give a lunar eclipse more of a 6-week window in your life. So back to the general principles here. You know, Mercury is the messenger of the gods, and he's a bit of a trickster, he's a bit of a coyote, a bit of a Loki energy, but he's definitely doing some serious connection right now with what the sun represents in the sky. And so in a sense, we would say that the sun in Hellenistic astrology is our discriminating intelligence. It's a part of us, it's the soul, it's beyond the space-time matrix. It's the other side of the event horizon. It's our divine essence. And so Mercury in the sky is having a powwow with the sun. It's called Cazimi. He's in the heart of the sun during this eclipse, and I believe he might just be coming out of that direct communion. Let me just take a look at the chart. My laptop has gone into sleep. So let me open it up. And the point of that is that you can expect in your own life some sort of download or insight. So Mercury's at 20 degrees and 5 minutes now, and the sun's at 20 degrees and 0, so roughly. So no, Mercury is in the heart of the sun during this eclipse. This is pretty rare. So with Mercury the messenger in deep connection with divine energy, he's still invisible in the sky. You won't see the results of the Cazimi unless it's an inward reflection, insight, or understanding during the eclipse or the days that follow, a dream, a reverie, a meditation. But where you might see the actual action of that Cazimi is when he gets visible in the sky again about 15 days outside of this eclipse. And then whatever messages the messenger of the gods was getting from the divine source intelligence, he'll be bringing to bear in the field of the collective and in your own life. I'm optimistic about this. I'm just, I know in the short term between now and April 1st, we're going to be looking at a collective, S-storm, okay? But I think things will start to get better after the end of March, maybe through one really intense calamity in the last 2 weeks of March, where we all kind of wake up and smell the roses and remember that we're sharing one planet, one air, one breathable place to live. We don't want to contaminate that in any way, especially with toxic substances that come out of, say, warheads that have radiation in them, like nuclear. Alrighty, so the other part of this is that the asteroid Juno, and she's the goddess of marriage, she's the wife of Zeus, also known as Hera, she's going to be relating to this eclipse at the time it happens as well. In the stars or in the heavens, she's at 19 degrees of Libra, and that's the sign of Venus, the god of love, art, beauty, relationships, sisterhood, and Libra is also the scales of justice. So any way in which justice must be meted out and truth must prevail, that's where Juno is sitting. Now for the collective, this eclipse with Mercury in the heart of the sun could forebode or foretell something a couple of weeks after the eclipse coming out that's true, that may have been hidden, eclipsed from our sight, that will shed justice, the light of justice and truth in the world. And that could be anywhere in the world, but it's worth noting that that is one potential symbolism of what this eclipse will reveal in the aftermath. In your own life, however, Juno can be somebody as well that you're deeply partnered with, whether it's a business partnership, a collaboration, or your marriage partner, or your love partner if you've been together for a long time. So this eclipse could bring something up, and that's something to do with partnership in your life over 6 weeks. A renewal of a partnership that was dormant or eclipsed that you didn't see or didn't pay attention to coming out of the shadows of this eclipse. News from somebody around the time of the eclipse and the week before and the week after that you haven't heard from in a long time that you may forge a business or a love partnership with going forward. So pay attention to that grand theme that could impact everybody here without knowing what your sign is and where it will occur. That's just a possibility. All right, I want to just quickly address the Pluto-Saturn conjunction on January 12th. I haven't really done a whole video on it. So many people have. Just to know that it's relatively rare. Every 500 years or so, Pluto will conjunct Saturn in the sign of Capricorn. The last few times this happened has been a time of political upheaval and changes in land, where new land was grabbed, old land was forfeit. So, you know, the lines on the map have been withdrawn and redrawn during these historical times or these epochs when this has happened. We've also had some revolutions like the printing press, or a revolution like not just a printing press, but Martin Luther, the Protestant Reformation during a Pluto-Capricorn combination in 500 years ago. So I don't know that we're going to have the same kind of revolution around religion, but we certainly could have a re-establishment of how the collective sees the current status quo. Maybe there's going to be news regarding the Pope over the fallout of this eclipse in the months that follow. That could be a possibility. Just going to say that. Later in the year, on December 21st, there's something called the Conjunction of Kings, when Saturn and Jupiter will come together, and that often also foretells the passing of a political figure or leader through assassination or illness. And so just to say also, someone in the public sphere may also be experiencing a bowing out of political leadership during 2020. Now I'm getting ahead of myself, but it just came to mind when I was talking about, you know, the Pope, or what this energy could reform, like the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, which reformed Catholicism. For people who don't know what happened, the Protestant Reformation just changed the rules of the game. Like one example would be the act of communion was no longer simply a realistic, like the blood in the body of Christ. It became symbolic instead of pretending it was real, I think it's called transubstantiation versus consubstantiation. That the symbolic elements weren't literally the body and blood of a spiritual figure that was being imbibed, but symbolic. And or the printing press came along, and people didn't have to wait for the priest to interpret the Bible. They could read it for themselves. So it was a kind of liberalization or democratization of spirituality, and a kind of bringing it out of the super, woo, I guess, of, you know, the transformation to the symbolic. So it was kind of like a maturing of that religion. So I don't know how it's going to play out in the collective. We shall see. With the kind of ardent right-wing political movement in the United States, with the spiritual embed in there, you know, the conservative Christian fundamentalist movement, there could be some development in the next year about that as well, that changes things a bit and matures it a bit. Man, it's already happening, right? We're having some Christian conservatives, particularly publications, standing out against some of what they're seeing going on right now in the movement. All right, so let's go to the all signs for the I'm going to give it a 6-week window rather than a 6-month fallout of this eclipse in Cancer on the 12th. It could be on the 11th, depending on where you live. And according to my chart, let me grab it, guys. I keep losing it. My screensaver needs to be fixed and not kick out every 5 minutes. The time for the eclipse is roughly 11:30 PST, roughly 2:30 Eastern Standard Time on January 10th. All right, so I'm looking at my little notes that I made here just to remind myself of where everybody's got their stuff. So let's go ahead. All signs, here we go. Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. If you're born at night and the sky is dark and below the horizon, probably you're going to pay more attention to your moon. If you're born in the day, your sect light is the sun. Check it out. If you don't know, you can always go to astro.com and plunk in your data and find out. This is my sun above the ascendant-descendant horizon by degree. So, and then, of course, the most accurate is actually to listen to your ascendant sign. So if you don't know that, you can also find out. So let's begin. For Aries, you're looking at this action of the eclipse occurring in the 10th house of career and the 4th house of home. Literally, it's that axis. The eclipse is in your career house, where the sun and Mercury are, Cazimi. So, and the moon is in your 4th house. So you can definitely expect some breakthroughs in your career, some new news, some good messages coming through after this eclipse, especially 15 days out when Mercury clears the beams of the sun and can deliver the news he got from his powwow with the divine source. Now, it could also be insights you have, reveries and dreams that deliver this news from Mercury, but it could be emails, phone calls, messages. Pay attention for some 6-week window of breakthrough there. Now, so what was hidden comes to light. The moon was in the 4th house. Could be some changes around your home. Maybe you're going to move. Maybe you're going to set up a new homestead somewhere. Maybe you get some good news about moving to a new place that's better, a new location. This is the house of your father as well. So maybe some news about your father could come to light in the 6 weeks that follow that was hidden from sight, but Mercury is now delivering this news from the heart of the sun. So not necessarily good news, but needed news. Juno's in your 7th house of marriage and long-term partnerships, including business. And she's doing, this is actually forming what we call a triangle, a T-square. She's squaring the eclipse. And so I would say you're looking at something like the possibility, Aries, that you could have some forward momentum that you didn't expect per se through some news to do with a potential long-term partnership, business and love. Maybe there's going to be the emergence of somebody from the shadows that you might want to get into a very serious and committed relationship with. We'll see what happens. Okay, moving on. Taurus. This is a 9th house, 3rd house eclipse axis for you. With a gentle reminder, of course, that this Taurus sun, moon, or ascendant, that this has been going on for a couple of years, this axis of influence with these eclipses since 2018. So if that's true for all of you signs listening. And so for the Taurians out there, this is going to be kind of Mercury coming into the heart of the sun, talking to the divine source energy when he's in the house of God. Like the 9th house is the house of God. That's where the sun's residing during the eclipse. You might get a real divine download, a super sweet inspiration. Now, if you have a guide, a mentor, a teacher, or a sage, or some wise counselor in your life, this is a time when they may deliver to you some really powerful, really useful information or news or insights for you. So if you see somebody like that in your life, expect after this eclipse, particularly 2 weeks out, when Mercury comes out of the visibility from the sun's rays, you might receive a blessing of great insight from somebody in your life like that. All right. Now the moon in the 3rd house of short-term travel and trips, of siblings, and of education like seminars, workshops, etc. If you're involved in anything like that, planning to take a class, teach a class, it will be a very good time in the 6 weeks that follow this eclipse for you to bring some hidden knowledge or insight or wisdom to bear on whatever it is you want to teach, because of that Mercury energy. If you've had any issues with a sibling or whatever, something hidden, something secretive, something not said or spoken, this is where things will come out into the open and things will be cleared over the 6 weeks that follow. So that's a very positive influence. Juno is in your 6th house of health and your 6th house of your job. So you can make some changes in how you work, your workspace. You might transform your office if you have a home office. You might have a change in the job workplace where you work that will benefit you. The news of that likely coming at least 2 weeks after the eclipse, and this influence window is 6 weeks. Take care of your health, new health regimes, take care of your body, take care of your food intake, new insights and ideas about that coming to you as well to support your physical vitality and your emotional health as well during the rest of the 6 weeks after this eclipse. Gemini. You guys are going through a long period since 2018, of course, midsummer, of the eclipse happening in a difficult house. It's a house of other people's money, 8th house axis, 2nd house of your own money and your own possessions and your own self-resourcefulness. Maybe it's been a long haul of discovering what you're worth, feeling your own self-worth, really owning that in your life, and not being reliant on other people's money, whether it's your spouse, I don't know, whether it's grants or stipends, or you're on a disability pension even. That's all very 8th house. If you have taxes that you haven't paid or whatever, these kinds of things are 8th house. So these kinds of energies, loans and grants, have been plaguing you or being asked to be revisited over the last 2 years. And now with this eclipse, with Mercury in the heart of the sun, getting some really divine download news for you, coming out in a couple of weeks with some good news, expect a breakthrough in some stagnant area, some difficult area with loans, money, other people's money, and your own earning resourcefulness, your own way of making your own way in the world, okay? I'm really excited for that breakthrough for you Geminis. I know a few of you have been struggling, who I have in my own life, personal friends, Gemini sun, some moons and ascendants, so good news for you. The Juno energy is in the 5th house of romance, children, and creativity. So Juno is kind of participating here, saying to you, you could have a breakthrough here or a change of a relationship with one of your children. If you're a Gemini who is looking for a child, Juno could say it's time, you know, for you and your partner to get serious about that. It's new romance, though. It's a house of new and fresh, the romantic and love vibe. So some of you Geminis who are not partnered or discontently partnered, oh dear, this eclipse could open up a window of new romantic engagement with somebody who has the potential to go the distance with you. And that window is most likely 2 weeks after the eclipse, when the Mercury clears the beams of the sun into a month later, 4 weeks later. So I'm looking at that as a potential for some of you Geminis out there. So stay tuned and let me know what happens. Cancer. The eclipses are going through your 7th house of marriage, your 1st house of identity, as they have been since midsummer 2018. It hasn't been an easy time if you're married and you're a Cancer sun, moon, or rising. So you've been working on your marriage, or you've been stressed about your marriage, or you've been considering what to do about your marriage, perhaps, or your long-term partnership. It's the house of business partnerships as well. And somehow, if you're like kind of engaged in like one-on-one work, like you're a counselor, guide, spiritual advisor, and you work with your clients, it's the house of your clients. So to some degree, some of you might be reinvestigating how to work differently with your clients, the other people that you have to engage with on a regular basis, like a business partner, like a marriage partner, and like a client. So I feel for all of you that you Cancer people, that this is going to be some good news in about 2 weeks, that you're going to receive an email or a phone call of some sort that really helps you redefine and get clarity about what it is you want in the partnership arena for your life, and to make a difference in that area. It's all about your identity as well. You know, the moon in this eclipse is in the house of self. It's about your body as well, your physical vessel. So you might have some ahas and insights about how to clarify the body, clean the body, purify the body, divinize and spiritualize the body, bring more light to your body. The anchor of Juno in the 4th house, however, is suggesting you might sell a house, or you might, because partnership and agreements and 4th house in real estate is like someone might come in to partner as a business energy to buy your house, buy your apartment, buy your condo. If you're thinking of selling, it would be an opportune time. You may not actually sell it in the 6 weeks that follow this eclipse. It may be more like 6 months out, this lunar eclipse, but nonetheless, that's going to maybe become active for you. You may receive good news too about your home and your base of operations, with an idea of partnering up. So if you're wanting to buy something and you're looking for partnership energy to buy something with, this could also work really well. Buy a house, buy some new real estate. You know, the 4th house isn't just that. It's your ancestral line. It's the house of your father. So in some traditions, the house of your mother. So your ancestral heritage. So you might have some breakthroughs of insight there. But it is Juno there. So she's bringing in a partnership energy. You could work with somebody, you know, a partner, a guide, a partner there to heal some ancestral wounds. All right. Leo, I didn't forget you this month. Every month I seem to bypass you guys. It's really funny. So you guys are going through the 6th house, 12th house axis with all of the eclipses since 2018 summer. difficult axis of energy. The sixth house is a house of things that can be very debilitating sometimes, our own self-undoing. The 12th house is a house of hidden enemies, and the 12th house is a house where also we want to be alone. We want to check out of things. We want just solitude. So I'm not sure how it's been feeling for you guys with the eclipses here, but with this new energy of both the Mercury Cazimi and the Juno, I'm looking at some breakthroughs for you guys. Now, one of the things that could occur here is that the energy of the Mercury Cazimi is in the sixth house of your workplace. You may make some definitive decisions about, or have some good news coming to you about your workplace. Now, I don't mean your career. That's the 10th house. This is the sixth house. This is like, this is my job. This is where I go. This is the office I work in. This is a space, even if it's a home space. So call employee, if you're employed, it's your fellow employees or your boss, okay? So some good news coming from that quadrant of your life that comes out of that Mercury energy a couple weeks after this eclipse. So look for that. It's also the house of your health. How are you taking care of that body? What are you doing? Are you taking care, exercising regularly? It could be some breakthrough insight news or information about a new health protocol or a new place to go to do your workouts that really supports you. It's really going to trigger maybe a new beginning, an energetic revealing as well, because the eclipse has got something hidden and then it can come into the light later. I wonder if you are neglecting something in the health area, and then you get an insight and a revelation about better health care. All right. Juno's in your natal third house in this particular situation, and that is a transit that will activate trips, short-term trips and travel after this eclipse, with partners, with other people. Juno, traveling with your spouse, traveling with friends who are close to you, traveling for business or with your business partner, collaborative travel. Now, it's also siblings. You might take a trip with a sibling sometime in the 6 weeks after this eclipse, which would be a good thing for you, actually. Or you may plan that trip in the 6 weeks after the eclipse. And there's energy in that eclipse energy. Like, this is for you, Sun, Moon, and Leo ascendant. So all of you listen here. If you have an opportunity to travel with somebody else on a trip of some sort that you hear about in the 6 weeks after this eclipse, most likely it will be a very good idea. You'll have a lot of benefit coming out of that for you, because Mercury was in the heart of the sun during the eclipse. The trip itself will probably be Mercury dispensing some insights and blessings during the trip as well. Your third house is education. You want to take a course, a seminar, or a workshop? Go for it. This will be a really good window of time, 6 weeks after the eclipse. Jump on it. It will be of great benefit to you. Alrighty, Virgos. This is going to be an activation for you of the energy of your natal 5th and 11th house. The eclipse is happening on that axis and has been all of the eclipses. You, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants, has been going through that whirlpool of energy, or that vortex of spinning energy, since summer of 2018. And we're trying to reset something here in the house of children, 5th house, house of children, creative expression, and romance, house of luck as well. And I'm wondering for you guys, have you had some unexpected luck? I hope so. Are you experiencing things to do with pregnancy, childbirth, and romance that have been asking for a reset? Now, eclipses don't make things easy. So this is a vortex of energy asking you to really investigate that house of romance and what you really want there. Now, the 11th house, the other end of the axis, right? Because the this Cazimi of the moon, of the sun and Mercury is happening in the 5th house. It's a breakthrough, delivering of insight and energy around something to do with what might have been hidden and will come to light in that 5th house of children, childbirth, pregnancy. You could accidentally get pregnant or discover you're pregnant. You could, something to do with children. Your own children may reveal a secret to you as Mercury comes out of the combust behind the scenes 2 weeks after this eclipse on January 10th. But the 11th house is a house of good spirit, and it's where you get great gains from your career. It's where you get your friends and allies helping you, benefactors, people in your life, in your social circles, especially your internet social circles as well, but wider social circles who come to your ally, assistance, and help. So that's always been a strength, I think, for you during this window of eclipses. But during the 2 weeks that follow this eclipse, outwards to 6 weeks from this eclipse, you'll have more assistance and benefits with your social friends and circles than you've had lately. So expect that to happen for sure. Now, the Juno of partnership is in the second house of earned income and in the second house of your self-possession and how you actually see yourself, your self-worth, your self-value. So it's not just the physical things you own, it's how do you self-possess? How do you own yourself truly and have that, self-regard and self-esteem that you so need in this life? And so we all do. And so the Juno there, it could be a partnering up with somebody, business partnering, a new ally or friendship, a new resource partner, working for somebody even that brings you great self-possession and self-worth through the money you get to make with this alliance. So if you have the opportunity that following this eclipse to do any work with somebody new, to be employed or be an assistant for them, be hired by them, say yes. It will really benefit your self-worth and self-esteem. Okay. Halfway through. I should have had a glass of water, guys. All right. Well, they'll put a commercial break in here. So for you Libras of the world, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, who've been going through since mid-2018, these eclipses in your fourth house of home and 10th house of career and public status and reputation, you've been really working on upping your game, upping the ante, getting your stuff out there. Today's January 10th eclipse is going to occur with the Cazimi, Mercury in the heart of the sun in your fourth house of home. Is it time for you to change something about your house? Are you going to sell a property? Are you being given whispered secrets from, or an offer that comes out of the blue maybe? Home, real estate, property, the city you live in, something that comes out of the blue that you don't expect. 2 weeks after this eclipse, someone walks by your neighbor and says, I love your house, I want to buy it, your condo, whatever. Good developments around the home front. The energy of the moon during this eclipse anchoring your 10th house of career, the moon in the 10th house tends to be a portent of great success. It's where it can bring, you more public exposure. People who are born with the moon in the 10th house have a capacity to have their finger on the pulse of the public, to know what the public needs and wants. And so you could have greater escalation of your appeal to the public or to the masses or to whoever you serve in your career during the eclipse, particularly 2 weeks after, as Mercury goes out of the invisibility of the beams of the sun and into the world, taking divine instruction from the sun to bring to bear in your career field. All right, so look for that energy, but also particularly the house of home. Juno's in your first house of identity, traveling through that part of your chart as this eclipse happens, squaring the eclipse axis. And so new partners coming your way, partners who are very much going to inform your sense of self, your identity. I think Juno in the first house, just as a general transit, often triggers a long-term marriage partner coming in. I've seen it over and over again. Juno takes around 4.5 years to go around the zodiac and get back to that first house. And so this could be the auguring in after this eclipse of a new love in your life that could go the distance with you, Libras. I'm really excited about that possibility, particularly 2 weeks after the eclipse, up to like 4 weeks after. The 6-week window of a lunar eclipse is quite powerful. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens for you. Let me know. Does new love step in? Does new love step in and maybe augur a change of residence as well? I just touched the screen because I'm low on battery. Alrighty, so Scorpio, yeah, so you guys are going through this eclipse energy and started in midsummer of 2018, and it's in your 3rd and 9th house. The eclipse with the Sun, Cazimi, Mercury in the 3rd house, Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants on January 10th is going to activate for you the house of short-term trips and travel, but also education. So if you're teaching something or you're going to study something, workshops, seminars, and courses, particularly not the 9th house is your degree-based education, college, university, but the 3rd house is the shorter-term stuff, online courses and classes. If you're learning, fantastic. Things are going to go off to the races. If you're a Scorpio who's teaching, even better, then you're going to have great success. And something that's maybe behind the scenes and not known by you will come to light 2 weeks into this, 2 weeks from this January 10th eclipse, that will really give you a boost in some way in that field. Now also, any trips you take or plan in the 6 weeks following the eclipse will have some alternate blessing, mercurial hermetic blessing for you as well. So Scorpio, the ninth house is where the moon sits during this eclipse, and the ninth house is a house of book publishing, higher education, God, foreign lands, and foreign travel. Those themes are also very active in the 6 months after this eclipse. If you've been thinking of writing a book, go for it. Get down and get dirty with the writing. If you want to travel somewhere foreign to another country, the eclipse will support that planning of the trip or the actual trip in the 6 weeks after this eclipse. The Juno anchor is Juno, the goddess of marriage and all of that partnership, is in the 12th house, and your 12th house is your house where you have the energies of your past lives. It's also the energies of your unconscious and the collective unconscious. It's also a place of solitude. But Juno, going through that part of your chart, and it's, you know, doing that whether this eclipse happens or not, is a forerunner, harbinger of a potential soulmate coming in for you. Because Juno will then travel into your first house and make you quite aware of that soulmate coming in. So this is the preamble, like the prenatal stage of some soulmate coming in. So pay attention to that possibility. It's not that common. Roughly 4.5 years, every 4.5 years you get an opportunity for this emergence, but we have this coexisting with this eclipse. So woohoo! I would ask you, January 10th plus 2 weeks, does somebody email you or contact you out of the blue that is perhaps, you feel in your essence, somebody you've known before? I got that feeling that that could happen. Like, ooh, I feel like I've known this person in another life. All right, moving on. The Sagittarians, sun, moon, and ascendant of the world, people. This has been a difficult 2 years. It's been through your house of money, your second house and your 8th house since mid-2018. The eclipse that's going through the money axis, self-worth, self-possession, and earnings, second house, and the 8th house of other people's money, and money you've got tied up with other people, like you've got business investments or jointly held real estate, you know, that money, inheritance money as well. So this ecliptic has been going on since midsummer of 2018. It kind of finishes its role, by the way, it's run with you on the solstice of 2020. Now, there's a possibility, not to worry you, of an inheritance coming during that window from someone who passes in your family, or selling jointly held assets with family members. Now, and if you're married, then from your marriage partner. Now, the eclipse with Mercury, Cazimi, the sun, in your second house of earnings is going to offer you the opportunity in the 2 weeks that follow this eclipse, with Mercury having gotten divine instructions, to find a new way to make some darn money in your life. So I'm harping on this a lot for Sagittarius lately because that's a theme that's ongoing for you. So pay attention to what insights and ideas come to you out of the blue, an email, an opportunity. Someone might come to you and say, do you want to do this with me? Now, the with me is the Juno energy, right? So Juno is sitting right now in your 11th house of good friends and allies and people who benefit you. Will a friend or an ally come to you and say, a couple weeks out of this eclipse, you want to partner up with me in this business endeavor? Or do you say to that person, do you want to partner with me with this business endeavor? So business partnerships formed through friendships and social circles and places that you belong, organizations or communities that you belong to, are one of the features that could unfold after this eclipse, 2 weeks to 4 weeks after in particular. Okay? The 11th house is a bit of a lucky house. It's on the axis of the 5th house, and so you could also have a lucky break regarding a new opportunity to partner up with somebody. This feels businessy to me, not romantic, but there's a possibility the romantic partner as well could emerge in that time that you will also have a business alliance with. Okay, if you're single. Capricorn, in the home stretch we go. You guys are experiencing Sun, Moon, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants are experiencing a very big identity shift during the last 2 years. The eclipses started moving in the first house of identity, the 7th house of marriage partnerships and business partnerships, and your clients, if you have them, one-on-one clients, in 2018 summer. This is coming to the finish line, and this lunar eclipse is going to activate 6 weeks in which themes of my identity, who I am in the world, my physical body, and my partner's business and love, and my marriage partner are active, very active. The Cazimi is in your first house of identity. So you could possibly have Mercury's blessing as he comes out of the heart of the sun in a couple of weeks after the 10th to do, by email, news, information, phone call, to do something brand new with how you appear physically, you know, like, I don't know, wild, crazy change of wardrobe or hair. It could also simply be an activation, a deep activation of how you see yourself in the world that will inform you going forward with Mercury's blessings. This Juno is sitting in the 10th house of your career. This is like what business partner will emerge for you Capricorns as this eclipse 6-week window, January 10th plus, unfolds. What new stature can you rise to through a partnership or agreement with somebody else that will bring your career to a new level? That really feels like that's something to pay attention to. So pay attention to those inbound emails and news and information that could have come through about 2 weeks after this eclipse to give you an opportunity for a new business partnership of some sort during the 6-week window after the eclipse. Aquarius. The eclipse is going through one of the challenging aspects, axes of the chart. So for you Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, you've been going through a 12th house, 6th house ecliptic since midsummer 2018. I'm Aquarius rising. I can commiserate. It will activate and has been activating a lot of spiritual energy too. The 12th house is a liberation axis. It's where you have enlightenment and solitude and contemplation, but it's in past lives. It's stirring up a lot of that stuff for us. Your 6th house is your health and your work. You may have changed the way you work. Not necessarily your whole career, like I'm an astrologer, but I went to Hellenistic astrology during these eclipses and brought that into my practice, and it's at the forefront. So you may have changed something about your job. I doubt you changed your entire career during these eclipses. But now we're coming to this particular fulcrum of this lunar eclipse with Cazimi Mercury, and I'm saying that you're going to get some insight 2 weeks after this eclipse that's going to even further refine your spiritual enlightenment quotient, IQ, or your work and how you do your work. Now also, it's a house of your wellness, your health, your nutrition plan, your exercise plan, how you care for the body. So you may discover or really fully initiate some new health plan, especially a couple of weeks after Mercury gets out of the heart of the sun, when he will deliver the news to you of what it is you should be focused on. Paleo, vegan, so many options, keto. Maybe you'll get the download from Mercury after this eclipse, especially 2 weeks out. Now, last thing is Juno is doing her dance for you guys, or me too, and it's in our 9th house of book publishing, foreign lands and foreign travel, God, the direct experience of the divine, the mystical encounter of one's soul with the divine. Juno there means partnering. So partnering with somebody to write a book, partnering with somebody to go on a long distance travel or trip. It's a house of higher education. You could be partnering with somebody in an educational way to teach something. Juno is a goddess of marriage. Are you destined to connect with someone after this eclipse who lives in a foreign land or was born in a foreign land, or you're traveling on a trip in a foreign land and you meet? And that could be a serious long-term partnership that is now revealed to you. And I say revealed because Mercury in this eclipse coming 2 weeks out of that, January 10th, add 2 weeks, will then have information and news for you and clarity and direction. So pay attention to that. The eclipse itself could also be very revealing. Pay attention to the day of the eclipse as well, particularly insights and downloads you get. But hey, could get an email or some notice from somebody on the eclipse. You never know. The last but never least are Pisceans of the world. Sun, Moon, and Ascendants. You are going to experience, as you have been since midsummer of 18, more eclipse energy in your 11th house of great gains, 11th house of good spirit. It's where your friends and allies benefit you. Your social networks are a great assistance to you. It's how you get the money and the gains from your career. That's the receiving portion of the storyline. So reputation, status, money comes from the 10th house of career in the 11th house of great gains. Now, this eclipse has Mercury, Cazimi, the sun in the 11th house. So what is Mercury going to take notes from as he goes into the heart of the sun to deliver to you? I don't know. Pay attention to insights, dreams, downloads. Definitely listen to what your friends have to tell you. 11th house. If a friend comes to you with some information and some ideas for your career, pay attention, gains from your career, how to more reap the harvest of better reputation. You might be drawn into some larger social network or community in which you can share your gifts, and that will benefit you greatly. The fifth house is activated in this eclipse. The moon is sitting in that fifth house of romance, creative expression, and children. Maybe some news and developments about your own children as Mercury clears the beams of the sun and about 10 to 15 days after the eclipse, and you might be pleasantly surprised by some good news from one of your children. If you're trying to get pregnant, good news because you got pregnant, or if you're pregnant, some good news about the pregnancy. Now, the last bit is Juno's in your 8th house of joint finances. Do you own some property that you need to sell? Do you have some investments you want to liquidate? This will facilitate that. 8th house is money that you have in a stored way. You know, it's inheritances. If someone's passing, you may have an inheritance. It's your spouse's money. But Juno there is like partnering energy. So if you're selling something, the partner is a person who buys your property or buys the asset that you're selling, right? It's an agreement, a partnership to buy something. So I'm feeling for you Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants, good news on that front. It's finances and money coming to you through another person's money and a collaborative agreement of some sort in the 6 weeks following this eclipse. So get ready for a little financial boon through that Juno energy in that part of your chart. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you watched all of the signs, then great. Good for you. Hallelujah. I'm down to 3% battery on my phone. Last thing I want to say again is to remind you, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. The algorithm then rewards me and tells you where I am, and we connect better that way. And I have a website, I have a sale, 220 year ahead sale. I mentioned it earlier, but if you didn't catch that wave, I'm reminding you. Go check the link below. I'm pretty well booked up to almost the end of January, but I'm sure you can find a spot. In early February, I have openings. And my sister Cindy, Blind Faith Readings, great 220 grand tableau spread. She does a very cool Lenormand. She's totally psychic. She is blind, yes, but she can see enough to see the cards, legally blind. And I do feel that offering of hers at only $97 is such a steal. I just want to support my sister, my younger sister, so go check her readings out in the link below. And thank you guys, and welcome to 2020. May we live in interesting if perilous times. Mwah.